So the first Alphafly is one of my all-time favorite carbon-plated racers, and the second version doesn't seem like it's too different, but I do think that there are some significant changes to it. So after a few runs in the Nike Alphafly Next Percent 2, I'm ready to give you my first impressions as well as compare it to V1. Just a quick disclaimer that I did buy the shoe with my own money, but anyways, let's get into the specs. So I'm not 100% sure about the exact stack height. I think it's 40 millimeters in the heel and 32 in the forefoot, just based that it is now increased to an 8 millimeter drop. The weight is around 8 ounces for men's size 9. In my men's size 12, it got a 0.7 ounce increase from last year. And I put the shoe in the carbon plated racer category. So let's go ahead and dive into the What's New shoe overview. The upper uses Atom Knit 2.0, which allows portions to be a little more flexible and others to be a little more sturdy. It also gets a big heel redesign. The midsole still uses Zoom X, a carbon plate, and AirPods, but now it adds some extra Zoom X between the AirPods and the outsole, and then the drop changes from 4mm to 8mm. The outsole is also completely redone. It is now almost more like a waffle kind of design. So for the fit of the shoe, I thought it was pretty similar to the fit of V1. I went true to size on it, and I seem to have enough room in the toes, and it's, definitely got a racing flat feel, but not too snug. So now let's get into my actual first impressions of the shoe. So one of the first things I noticed was this redesigned upper and how much of an improvement it was. One of the main things I had an issue with on the V1 was that there is a seam on the heel that would dig into my Achilles. And this one, it has a much softer, completely redesigned heel that still locks in really nicely, but also doesn't rub in. There's a little extra padding underneath the laces, which is really nice too. And overall, I just love the new upper. And then another thing I did notice too was that extra stability. So they really widened out the base of the shoe. So especially in the heel, it was much more stable feeling. And then I did notice that the arch was a lot more prominent on the shoe and more supportive, which is good if you thought that it didn't have that in V1. So the couple of runs that I've done in the Alphafly, the first one was a medium paced run and the second was a fartlek. And the first run I did in it, it seemed pretty similar to the Alphafly 1, similar ride, just like I mentioned, a little more stable feeling. But on my second run, I started getting some hot spots and rubbing underneath with that new arch support, and I actually got blisters on my arches. So I'm not sure if it was just the socks I wore that day or what was up with that, but that was something that I never got with V1. So I definitely have to test this out more and see if that's a reoccurring issue. So besides the arch issue, I thought that this was still a super soft, super bouncy, and speedy marathon racer. And I did like the little extra Zoom X underneath the AirPods. I thought it helped make the shoe just a little bit quieter, added maybe a little more softness to the forefoot as well. And then I think it adds some extra protection too. If you were to step on like some goat heads or nail or something, it wouldn't go almost just straight into the AirPod. So one last thing I'll mention about my first impressions of the shoe is, can't tell if it's just because this isn't worn in like my V1 or if it is just that wider platform, but I thought that it definitely felt a little firmer than my V1. So that's something I'll see if it does loosen up or if it's just how the shoe's constructed. It's a firmer shoe overall. But either way, it does mean it's a more stable shoe, which is good. But speaking of V1, let's go ahead and do more of a direct comparison. Alright, so putting these shoes toe to toe, starting with the upper. Like I mentioned, I had some issues with the heel area on the V1 rubbing into my Achilles, causing it to bleed, blister, whatnot if my socks were a little too short. That issue has completely been resolved with V2, and overall I think it's just a better fitting, more comfortable upper on V2, so it's gonna win on the upper. As for the midsole, I think they both have kind of a general feel. They both have that unique AirPods, Zoom X, Alphafly feel to them. But like I mentioned, if you are like a heavy heel striker or thought that your midfoot was sliding off on V1, I think you'll really appreciate V2 with that really stable heel and the extra arch support in there. So I didn't really mind the outsole of the V1, I thought it was alright, but I think I like the outsole of V2 better just because it's less noisy and I think it grips about the same. So to kind of wrap it up, I think that you're a person that liked the V1, or maybe didn't like the V1 because you wish it had a more stable heel, or your midfoot was sliding off the middle, so you wish it had some more arch supports or just built up in that area, and you don't really care about weight, then I think that this is a perfect shoe for you because it corrects all of those issues. For me personally, I didn't really have any issues with the arch or didn't notice the instability of the heel too much of the V1. So I think those are just kind of bonuses for the V2, but the upper was really the main thing that just wowed me on this version. So I think that the majority people will honestly be fine if you just buy the Alphafly V1 on sale right now. There's some pretty good deals on it, and then wait to pick up V2 until you worn those out, and then these are starting to go on sale. That is, unless of course you're the person I mentioned that is really seeking out that extra heel and arch stability, then I think you might just want to go straight to the V2. So I am personally still trying to figure out how I feel about the Alphafly V2. I thought, it'd be pretty similar to the V1, which in a lot of the ways it is, but I still have to get used to that stability. And then the main thing is those blisters I got on the arch. If that continues to be an issue, I'm not sure I can wear the shoe. I might just have to stick with V1. Have you tried the Alphafly V2? Let me know if you've had issues with the arch or just what you think of it in general in the comments down below. I'm going to give you my final verdict on the shoe after I've put it through the paces, add a ton more miles onto it, so subscribe so you don't miss that. And as always, keep on running.